All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going? We'll let everyone kind of catch up here. We are doing the Paul and Greg live stream. I don't even know what episode we're on. I don't even know if we even call them episodes anymore.
It's like episode 155.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
If you guys have not been to our YouTube channel, you can check out all these live streams over there. So I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, but I'm going to put a little plug for our YouTube channel, and maybe Dom can kind of put that in there right now. We have a lot of videos. And we're working on tagging them and categorizing them so you can find by topics, EMDs, multiple offers, whatever the topic might be. You guys can navigate that. So check it out. Make some suggestions. If we can make it better, let us know. All right. So today's conversation, we have an inventory problem. I think we're all pretty much aware of that.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty big inventory problem. We don't have enough houses to sell. Sellers are hesitant to list their house.
The numbers are getting worse. They're not getting
Numbers
better.
are getting worse. The market's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. We're hoping we don't end up in an old-fashioned standoff between buyers and sellers. But we know that people out there are interested in moving, but they're terrified. They're hearing realtors saying, "Oh man, I've written my 25th offer for my buyers, and I've written my 15th offer for my buyers. We just can't win. We wrote 40K over asking and still lost." Mm-hmm. And so the message that's being put out there to sellers or people who might be interested in selling is going, "Hey, I can sell your house.
Yeah.
But I can't find you one."
Yep.
So we want to talk about some ideas that aren't being talked about very often by the larger association, the larger body of realtors. And you've been working on this idea that you're going to present to everyone right now. You've been working on this idea for quite a while. You've been talking to associations. You've been interviewing agents. You've been working kind of a lot on this little idea of yours. So why don't you share with us where this came from and what this idea is?
So bear with me here. I'm probably going to be jumping around a little bit. But my ultimate goal is by the end of this conversation, hopefully within 30 minutes or so, all of you will have an idea that you can potentially turn into some actual activity, giving you reasons to call some of your sellers. So it's something that actually how it got started was 2 5-star agents had written separately, and one said to me, "Why do we have to always do it the same way? Who decides that we have to do real estate in a certain way?" And I thought, well, we're basically self-governed to a certain extent, although, we're governed by, we have state laws that we got to follow. We've got association rules that we have to follow. Mm-hmm. We've got MLS rules that we have to follow. And then we've got the individual broker rules that also come into play. So I started, after these agents had inspired me to start asking some questions, I started talking with board of director members. I started talking to the state. I've called Gail Anderson, who represents Michigan Realtors. And I asked the question, can we put a home on the market and down in the comments section write, "This listing is contingent upon the seller finding suitable housing." No other tie downs, just wide open. Now again, everything can be negotiated, but as I'm sitting here, the more and more I've thought about this, there's more and more things that pop up. And so, again, I'm going to try to explain this in a way that I don't think this is the end all, the everything, that we can somehow end this miserable low inventory situation. And so, again, just know this is not the end all, but this may be an idea that could help a number of you make a fairly good living yet in 21. So the idea was I started talking with associations to find out, is this possible? Because I knew that in Grand Rapids has a clause that says you have to name the house. If you're going to make this listing contingent, you have to name the house. And then I started asking around in some other boards like GMAR and GCAR and TAR and
WIMLAR.
MOM and WIMLAR and everybody else. I would call up the executives and I would say, do you have any rules against that? And they said, oh, gee, a couple of them knew, but more likely they would say, well, I'm going to call the state before I get back to you. Well, I already knew the state didn't have any rules against it. So I knew they were going to get back to me. It was interesting how they would phrase it, though. They'd say, well, there's no rules against it. And, obviously the opposite is that there's no rules for it. But to me, if there's no rules against it, they are for it, right? And but there was a lot of hesitancy when I was asking these questions. And I know it's been, because I've been poking around, I know it's been elevated up to the Michigan Realtor level, and associations are talking about this right now. But here's what, as we look at the main issue, we have kind of a death spiral going on right now. And what I mean by that is that every day a seller who was going to list their home a month ago or last year is deciding, I'm not going to put my home on the market right now because I have no idea where I'm going to go.
There's no rentals available.
And if it sells, and I find myself there's one house that fits what I want, I'm going to have to pay an unlimited amount of money to win the offer. And if I'm homeless, I'm going to have to figure out how to win the offer at any cost. Mm-hmm. And, which one of you want to be put in that position where you have to be willing to pay any amount of money just so that you can win? So as I'm looking at this, I'm going, all right, what if all of you went out tonight and every one of you sent out an email or made a phone call, which I think, by the way, is a good thing for you to do regardless, and just say to your clients, make a little letter up and say something like, did you know that you can list today, find a buyer, and then not close until you find suitable housing? No need to fear being homeless after your home finds a buyer. Stay in your home until you find suitable housing. Guaranteed not to be homeless if you list your home today. List now, but only close when you find suitable housing. Guaranteed to find your home before you close on the current home. Well, how many sellers have all of you run across over the last few months that have said, "Hey, I'm not gonna join this party. I can't risk it. I just can't do this to my family." And
sounds too stressful. Sounds too whatever.
Yeah. And so I'm hearing this over and over and over and again. And I'm going, so these other associations, GCAR, WIMLAR, all around us, MOM, Montcalm, West Central.
Basically every board but GRAR.
Yeah, I have been unable to find any other association other than GRAR that has this rule that you can only do this if you have a particular home that you write down and send it to the association. However, I also understand that every agent in Grand Rapids, in GRAR, has the ability to still go out and do the same thing and then pay a $55 list-only fee to any association around us, and you can do it. So you can't be stopped, even if your own current association...
Let's just clarify that real quick.
Yeah.
You were talking with an agent, you were kind of running this by that agent just this past week, and he said, Greg, I lost a listing because I couldn't, because I told them I'm part of one of those associations where you have to mention the property that you know you're going to want to buy.
Just yesterday, I was talking to one of the top 10 agents, and I brought this up just to run it past him to see if I was even close here. And he said, Greg, I just had that scenario. I was just out there. And
the next step is, most people don't know this, very few people know this, that you can go over to WIMLAR, for example, and say for $50.
For $50 or $55, you can do a list only. And they have, each association has a few little hoops you're going to have to jump through to make it work. But the bottom line is, I want you all to know that today you can send out an email, you can make a phone call and to your clients. But I want to tell you about this agent that did a test. An agent I know decided to take this idea a week or two back and sent out to his sphere of 800 names. Within 48 hours, he had somewhere between 15 to 17 people that reached out to him wanting to know more about what he just wrote. Out of that, he got
a simple phrase like, did you know that we can list your house?
I can protect you. I can guarantee you that you will not have to move until you find suitable housing.
Contingent upon you finding the house of your dreams.
Yep.
Okay.
So you think about this, and again, there's this death spiral I talked about. I want to try to find a way to unlock. So let's say in Mishrick alone, not including TAR, not including GMAR, not including Lansing, you've got almost 8,000 agents. If everyone went out and did this, and let's just say for a moment that out of everybody collectively, we added 500 or 1,000 listings to the market. All of a sudden, you could potentially start unlocking all of these lockdown death spiral situations because people would start seeing, oh, there's a place, there's a place, there's a place. I got 3 places I could look at. So there's so many different aspects to this that could be positive. And again, I'll get to the negative things here in a moment because I know there's a few of you right now that your brains are already going into the problems. And so I just want you to know that I have not forgotten about the problems, and I understand that there are going to be some issues. There's going to be a learning curve. There are going to be issues, but just like there are issues today with delayed showings coming soon, delayed presentations. We've got agents fighting each other on a regular basis right now because the wording didn't get quite right, or somebody feels somebody else abused the system. And the same could be said for this area. But again, what I want you to focus on is right now, people that are not putting their homes on the market because of this specific thing right here. And if you take that away from them and they could put it out there, let me give you an example. I was talking with an agent in Muskegon. The listing had been put out with the, because you can do it over in Muskegon right now. The listing had been put out that, this home is contingent upon the seller finding and closing suitable housing. And so in this process, they went ahead and made an offer, and they tried to get the seller to remove it. The buyer upped the price, and the seller, after putting their home on the market under this basis, ended up now going, you know what? That's such a great offer. I'm going to move forward. And then think about other scenarios where...
So let's just get this straight. So the seller said, I'm only moving if I find suitable housing. Okay? A buyer writes an offer and calls their bluff and says, oh, really? What if I give you 20 grand more?
Right, and they took it.
And the seller goes, well, for 20 grand more, I can be homeless for a little while.
So without this rule and without this contingency, that listing would have never been on the market. And if it was not on the market, this deal would have never happened. And so what I'm talking about is us being market makers, not just sitting on the sidelines and, scratching our heads going, nobody's doing anything. I thought about, I've heard some other areas, things like, builders. Why can't builders build more homes? Well, there's a number of reasons. There's got to be developers. You got regulations. You've got 1 to 2 years to get a development underway. Then another area is investors. Well, guess what? Ever since 2008, investors have gobbled up a large chunk of the single-family home market and have converted those to rentals now. They're not selling. The reason they're not selling is that they got a great return on there because the rents have gone from $600 a month up to $1,200 or $1,500 a month. So they're getting well over 10% returns on their money. They're not going to dump that and go gamble.
And their equity is just increasing.
And their equity's gone up. I was talking with another agent. Do you know that most of your sellers right now, I don't know if you quantified it, but a very smart 5-star agent said yesterday in this conversation to me that he says that what he's realized now that just about every person he goes and talks to that bought 4 years ago has $100,000 in increased equity today from 4 years ago.
There's a lot of equity. There is an absolute enormous amount of equity in the market.
So, again, unlock the death spiral is what I'm trying to do. What could change this whole market in a hurry? Well, I'm going to tell you the number one thing that could change it is some global event, and the global event then impacts interest rates, and interest rates go to 6%, and all of a sudden there's a giant screeching sound as the market comes to a halt. But nobody can, people are talking about inflation and these other things.
I just want to really quickly, a lot of people are like, well, we've talked about this a few times, but there could be people watching right now who have not heard this before.
Yep.
People have often said, why are we in this situation?
Right.
there's, in my mind, well, we've talked to economists, and actually I think the National Association of Realtors and Realtor Magazine put this out. Builders fell behind during the previous recession.
Starting in 06.
Starting in 06, they started falling behind. They weren't building enough because the market was crashing. Secondly, we have the millennials and the Gen Xers who are they're a huge generation, and they're buying these properties up. And so that's what's driving from shore to shore, from the ocean, ocean to ocean.
It's countrywide.
Countrywide, we've got this problem.
But
West Michigan, they say, actually has a larger percentage per capita of millennials and Gen Xers, which is why we're like even worse in many areas. So I just want to put that out there to give people just a little bit of context on what we got here.
I just want to encourage everybody, if you have questions on this, feel free to send them in. And even if we can't get to them during this broadcast, we'll get to them yet this week. So let me give you a few other thoughts. So obviously, if you're going to do something like this, if you're going to list a property that says subject to the seller finding suitable housing, there's going to have to be some addendums. We have some addendums that we are putting together right now. Probably needs to be an FAQ. There probably needs to be a warning to both, the buyers especially, like, please don't start spending money on inspections and appraisals, because there's no guarantee yet that you're going to do this. And so we're thinking those things through. So addendums and FAQs and Q&As. And so we're putting all this together, and we can talk more about this in the coming days. But the main purpose of this broadcast today was I wanted you all to know that you could go out there tonight, call back the person that told you a week ago or a month ago or 6 months ago that they are not going to put their family at risk when they're not sure they can find anything. Now think about this also. Here's how this would work. You list the property, buyer comes along, you negotiate it out. And again, remember now, you could negotiate a lot of things in between closing it in 30 days or waiting for 6 months. But again, I believe that you are all smart, you're creative, and that you guys will come up with far more ideas than I ever could that will make this sing. I guess I also wanted to, I lost my track of thought there for a second. Okay. So anyway, I want to encourage you all to think about how to employ this. Think about how to make the call.
And really, are there other? What we're going to do here is, Martin just asked if we could send a little example of template of an email. So what we'll do is we'll draft a little email of what we might think would be like a nice talking point on this topic.
Yep.
But I think what you're really saying is we have to get creative here to find little ways to start unlocking the market.
Yep. Yep. And also, just so you know, I tried to move a motion at Grand Rapids to allow this, and they voted it down last week. But I'm not done. I'm going to continue pushing and try to get Grand Rapids included in that, so the Grand Rapids agents would not have to pay that extra $55. But I'm here to tell you, for me, if I could get somebody to do this and I had to spend the $55 to put it in Wimlar or GCAR or MOM or Montcalm,
small price to pay.
Small price to pay to get these things out in the market. But just think again about, can we unlock what's going on, the death spiral that we're currently in? Every day, less and less people are going to put their homes on the market because there's nothing out there. So I'm trying to think of some examples here right now that I've heard. Well, somebody said, so you mean, how do we get paid? It's like, well, how's it working for you now? I mean, for crying out loud. Some of you have been out and written 10, 15 offers. And, these poor people have got to be in tears right now after going through this process, as well as the real estate agent. And so why can't we try something different? Why can't we offer the public another choice?
And I'm kind of betting that they will find something. I'm thinking that if you pay the $50, if you're a grower agent, or let's say you're in another market where you do this, you get somebody to go, hey, I'll play ball with you.
Yep.
Let's throw my house on the market, contingent on us finding suitable housing.
Yep.
I'm willing to bet that their mind is going to shift and they're going to start putting themselves back into the seat of a buyer again, and they're going to start thinking like a buyer, and they're going to go out there and aggressively start working to find a place. Because once you start to think about moving, your mind starts moving in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now they're going to get their head in the game. They're going to go out there and compete for properties, and boom, off to the races.
So let me just go down the negative slope just a little bit here. But on the other side of the negativity is also the positive, the rainbow. By putting these homes on the market, it allows you, working with buyers. Let's say you've got buyers that have been working and have missed out on 10 homes. All of a sudden they see this. Maybe there's going to be less activity on this one. Your buyer won't be competing against 15 other cash offers. Let's say that your buyer is able to go in and negotiate where the seller says, look, we don't want to have any timeline whatsoever, nothing. And your buyer says, well, I'm not willing to do an unending forever deal. So your buyer says something like, look, after 3 months, I'll give you the 3 months where I'll guarantee you I'll buy this home if you find something. But beyond 3 months, I reserve the right to void this contract at any time if I find something else. What if you go in with an offer and you ask them to commit and they won't, and then you say, well, look, what if I gave you 4 months? But if I do that, I want to give you a little bit less money on the price. And then everybody's trying to work their way out here to find what meets. So I know all of you are creative. All of you have the ability to think through the possibilities of what you could do in an offer presentation to encourage either the buyer to move, the seller to move, a combination thereof. But none of this can take place unless we convince sellers who are currently unwilling to list out of fear of being willing to do this. And basically you're taking away all the risk. You're taking away the worry. You're taking away a complex situation and making it simple. And I believe that you are going to have people respond to you. Think about this. This also gives you another reason to call your sphere up right now. Begin making calls, talking to people. You can simplify what I probably made too complex here already today. But you could put a sheet together that talks about the benefits of this to the buyer, the benefits to the seller. There could be all sorts of marketing pieces, ads. I'm sitting here and I was talking with another broker locally and we're going, maybe we ought to try to get some press on this and just go and see if we can get some time from the media to say, look, we have an idea. Right now, we've come up with a solution with people who are fearful can now put their home on the market. And guess what? You can receive offers. You're going to know without any commitment from the seller's going to know what somebody's willing to pay for their home. And at any time that they're willing to remove that contingency, the deal goes together. And then at that moment, you start the traditional real estate sale. Is this going to create some trains, so to speak, with a bunch of engines hooked up, and if one falls, they all fall? Yep, that could happen. Just like it has in years past, whenever we put a train situation together where this is contingent, this is contingent, this is contingent. And so what we have to do as realtors is this is a time where we have to be creative. We have to think outside the box, as the old cliche says. And so we here at 5 Star have decided that we wanted to go public with this idea. We wanted to present it to you in its simplest way without trying to cover all the bases. And so as I look at it today, we have 2 issues to summarize here. The first issue is we have inventory issues, and I can tell you it's not going in the right direction. It should be increasing right now, and it's decreasing right now. Grand Rapids can't even talk about months supply anymore. Grand Rapids is now down to 2 weeks supply. And I know it's following in all the other markets as well. I don't know of anybody else that can do anything at this moment to unlock this. The builders can't, the investors aren't going to do it. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, maybe they ought to give a tax holiday to the investors to give up, 5 each or something, and sell the single family homes out to create more inventory. Well, again, that's going to take a legislation and a governor's signature. I'm not holding my breath. Builders aren't going to do it. I don't know who else is going to do it. And so I think the real estate industry, it's incumbent upon us to try to come up with something that might move the needle just a little bit. So I hope you're able to take something out of this, and I didn't confuse the living daylights out of you here this morning. But I do believe that it's going to take an addendum. I believe it's going to take a Q&A. It's going to take a warning so that no buyers somehow miss the fact that this is not a done deal yet. You're making an offer. It's contingent upon the seller finding something. And what we have to add to the end of that is if the seller doesn't find anything, this whole deal could go down in smoke. I mean, that's a possibility.
We're going to release we're going to email and post some stuff.
I would say that let's plan on, we'll have some things out we'll start trying to put some things out tomorrow, and we'll get more out on Friday.
We'll have everything to you by Friday. And I think Charlie Weaver, you said you had somebody who was ready to go. So I'd like to touch base with you and connect you with Greg on this one so we can get you the right verbiage right away. We don't want you to have to wait. But we'll put together a definitive guide on how we suggest this working.
Yep. Right now, all of you know somebody, given this option, I believe they would list their home. And if every one of you would do that, we could begin to change what's taken place. Even though this has been happy days for sellers, for every seller that goes into becoming a buyer, this is not a wonderful scenario. So
no. Keep your heads up.
Any thoughts?
No, just keep
right.
There's a lot of good feedback here, so we're gonna get this information out. I think this is gonna be good.
All right.
And keep your head up. And
if you have questions, call Paul.
Yep.
And
I posted my cell phone. I will never. I promise, guys. I'm not the one texting you asking for gift cards. Please ignore that.
Oh person. Yeah. I have been. They've swiped my email or my Facebook account so many times, and as far as I know, we've only had one situation where one of our staff
we did have someone fall for it.
We had somebody fall for it and sent a couple grand.
So
so just know, I will never ask any of you to send me any gift cards or cash ever, other than the monthly invoice.
Definitely not. All right, everybody, have an awesome day. We will get this information out to you, and thank you so much for tuning in.
All right,
see you guys later.